Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, Labor Day 2015 marked with union rallies and a presidential executive order. Perfect artworks for a big beach weekend. Sculptures made of sand will show you the annual contest held here in San Diego.
The first demand is that we have effective civil rights legislation, no compromise, no filibuster.
Everyone remembers Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. The Jolla Playhouse tells the story of another activist who helped make it happen. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. President Obama marked this Labor Day by signing an executive order requiring federal contractors to give paid sick leave to workers. He announced the order during a trip to a union rally in Boston today. Employees working on federal contracts will get up to 7 paid sick days per year. The president says paid leave is a matter of basic security and called on Congress to take action.
Find a way to make paid leave, paid family and medical leave a reality for all Americans. That's something we should be doing.
The White House says the order will benefit 300,000 workers. Business groups say it will be a burden on small businesses and could hinder economic growth. Paid leave was just one of the topics for union members who rallied at Petco Park today. Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez says labor leaders have a lot of work in front of them.
We need to continue to ensure that there's pay equity and ensure that women, even those women who can't be in a union, can be paid the same as their male counterparts. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, but stuff that we're going to get done.
Gonzalez says increasing the minimum wage is another priority. The issue could go on the November 2016 ballot. Labor Day is often when many of us celebrate the unofficial end of summer, often by going to the beach. San Diego lifeguards say about 300,000 folks flocked to the coast this weekend. Despite choppy waters and strong rip currents, lifeguards made close to 400 water rescues. Well, you don't have to brave the crowds at the beach to see the amazing U.S. Sand Sculpting Challenge. Competitors came from around the world to San Diego to shape and scrape temporary works of art.
An ode to Labor Day at the B Street Pier downtown with the Rat Race sculpture, a tribute to the American worker who struggles daily to bring home the cheese. 4 days of carving to complete this 10-ton piece of sand art with the city landscape as a backdrop. This won first prize in the team competition, but the theme of this year's Sand Sculpting Challenge was the road to Rio and the Summer Olympics.
This is the winning piece in all individual categories, one hands down. These blocks almost are like the sprinter's block. It represents the tunnel vision and focus the sprinter needs to finish the race.
Melanie Beauregard from Quebec, Canada took home the Masters Grand Prize of $7,000. Gordon Summer is the event organizer.
She is absolutely one of the best in the world. She won first place, she won People's Choice, she won Sculptor's Choice. That's a hat trick for any sculptor to ever win that in a lifetime.
300 tons of sand mixed with clay was brought to the pier for this annual event, now in its 36th year. The threshold of momentum is what artist Fergus Mulvaney of Ireland calls his second-place winner, inspired by the animated film The Animatrix.
The animation is so fluid and really gnarly that when the runner is almost hitting the finishing line, everything goes a little bit crazy and wobbly and abstract.
Out of 25 sculptures on display, the most attention-grabbing was called Bruce Jenner, a nod to Olympic decathlon winner Bruce Jenner, who won gold in 1976. She's now known as Caitlin, the most famous transgender person in the world.
If you're anywhere near the harbor, there's still time to see the sculptures, but all that sand will be bulldozed after 7 tonight. The 4-day event expected to pump up to $2 million into the local economy. Well, the cost at the gas pump continues to drop, less than $3 a gallon for regular in some parts of the county. AAA says the average is about 8 cents less than a week ago and 40 cents below what it was 1 year ago. It's back to school again for students in the largest school district in the county. San Diego Unified, with 110,000 students, starts tomorrow. So do students at Borrego Springs Unified, and some elementary school students in Chula Vista are also starting class tomorrow. The Iran nuclear deal will be one of the items on the agenda when Congress goes back to work tomorrow as well. Now, San Diego's congressional delegation is split over the proposal. Republican Darrell Issa has called it, quote, junior varsity foreign policy grounded in childlike optimism, leaving our most important allies in the Middle East at risk, end quote. Democrat Susan Davis is one of the more surprising supporters of the plan. Amitha Sharma talked with her to find out why.
Congress comes back from its August recess tomorrow. There's some work to finish. Here with me to discuss what's on the to-do list is Congresswoman Susan Davis, who represents the 53rd Congressional District. Welcome to the program.
Nice to be with you. Thank you.
I understand that you support the Iran nuclear accord, which is aimed at stopping the country's nuclear program in exchange for lifting sanctions. Why do you think it's a good deal?
Well, the most important thing we can do is to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon. That's really goal number one. And I think that this gives us, along with our international partners in the P5+1, including China and Russia, are very important in this because we want everybody to keep the focus on Iran now and be sure that they are using any nuclear capacity for peaceful means only.
Now, as you know, Republicans believe that Iran will violate the agreement. They don't quite have enough votes to scuttle the deal, but they're trying to muster up votes to get a resolution passed against the deal. What sort of success do you think they might have? What are their chances?
Well, I think we see that the Senate has just come out enough members who I think would certainly make it veto-proof. And also, which is a negative resolution that they're trying to pass. And I think it's important that we talk about next steps. I mean, that's really, I think, what the yes votes that are there are interested, because we have to be sure that it is for peaceful means. We're not expecting them not to possibly cheat, and it's partly why we need this deal. I think why we need the entire international community to join with us and for us not to be isolated in that result.
Let's move on to the Syrian refugee crisis in Europe. Just last week we saw the drowning death of a Syrian toddler. There is a push now to get the United States to take in more Syrian refugees who are fleeing ISIS, who are fleeing their country's civil war. What's your position?
Well, I think we're all, deeply concerned about what's happening, and certainly those images of children have alerted the entire world to this catastrophe that's going on. We certainly have our own issues here in terms of immigration, and I think it's very important for the Congress to look at this issue and to understand how we can be helpful and how we can be helpful with those countries that are also willing to take in refugees, because they are basically on their doorstep and within their countries. And we know that these kinds of images and stories just have to be answered in some way that's positive for those families.
So are you in favor of allowing more refugees from Syria to come to the United States?
I think we have to look at our own policies here and our own numbers and take a look at that. We know that we've had many refugees who are basically in line as well to come here. We've slowed down a lot of the refugees who have been coming here, and I think it's important for us to take a look at this and to really evaluate what we can do and how we can help.
You voted this summer to give President Obama fast-track authority to negotiate the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership, a 12-nation trade deal. How would this deal benefit San Diego?
We know here in San Diego that many small businesses engage in trade. They want to have new markets to sell to. We also know that there are many issues that are combined in the Trans-Pacific Partnership that could be helpful, certainly in terms of even environmental issues in the oceans. I think that we will be following the actions that are being taken now by those who are negotiating the agreement, and I will be looking very, very closely on whether or not I think it's best for San Diego. I've had some issues about it, but I did believe that we should give him the authority to go ahead and negotiate, so he doesn't have to, those countries don't have to negotiate with 535 members. But on the other hand, I think it's important that we be certain that pharmaceutical products, for example, are ones that can be used, of course, by other countries, especially developing countries where they have developing democracies. And so it's going to be important for us to weigh in on what we think is best for our country, and that's really what I've been doing, being a part of the conversation.
So very quickly, voters have protested outside your office also. They have concerns about the TPP. They have environmental concerns, e-commerce, internet commerce concerns, as well as job concerns. Do you share those concerns?
I do share some of those concerns, which is why I'm part of the conversation and why I've stayed involved in this issue, because I do think we need to be looking at what's best for San Diego and what's best for California, for that matter. And there are many things that we can work on, and I'm doing that every day. Yeah.
Congressman Susan Davis, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
A blue whale tangled up in fishing line has been spotted off the Coronado Islands. Rescuers have been trying to detangle the huge whale since it was first spotted near Los Angeles on Friday, but they lost sight of it near Catalina. The 80-foot whale was spotted again this morning, swimming south near Tijuana. U.S. rescuers cannot work in those waters, but they are coordinating with their Mexican counterparts. Wildlife experts say the stress and strain of being tangled could kill the animal. Marine mammals are known for being a bit of a nuisance in San Diego. They can block beach access and create foul smells. KPBS science reporter David Wagner says a new study finds marine mammals add to another nuisance, mercury.
Mercury accumulates as it moves up the food chain, meaning seals and sea lions are consuming a lot of it, and they're shedding a lot of it too, according to a new study that shows mercury levels in coastal ecosystems can rise as much as 17 times above normal when elephant seals are molting. San Diego State University graduate student Jen Kosaboon is first author on this study. She specifically examined a rookery near Santa Cruz, though she said local sites with lots of marine mammals, like La Jolla Cove, may have similar problems.
Anywhere where there are a lot of fielder sea lions that are eating and defecating and molting, I would say that it would be something worth looking into, and there's a good chance that mercury would be elevated.
Humans mainly consume mercury through fish like tuna and swordfish. David Wagner, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, a special Labor Day discussion on the fight over raising the minimum wage. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
Imagine the U.S.-Mexico border as a kind of third country. It's the theme of a new multimedia art exhibit in San Isidro. It's called Looming and features the work of Cuban-born artist Ivan Ubreo. He says his work is a conceptual look at borders.
It means you don't belong to Mexico, you don't belong to the U.S., you belong to the border. And that condition of a third place really interests me.
The exhibit includes digital images of horizons along the border and a landscape of spiral staircases receding into the distance. Looming runs through October 2nd at the Front Gallery in San Isidro. The exhibit 7 Billion Others is winding down at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park. Tonight, we revisit a conversation between Peggy Pico and the people behind the exhibit.
What did you learn from your parents? What meaning does life have for you? What is love? Those are a few of the same 45 questions answered by 6,000 people from 84 countries in the 7 Billion Others exhibit.
Cita-cita saya sewaktu kecil, saya ingin menjadi pilot.
Mi gran sueño cuando era niño era ser piloto.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Da bambino sognavo di essere un pilota d'aereo.
J'avais décidé de devenir aviatrice.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Ik wou piloot worden. Ik wou vliegen.
All I wanted to do was be a jet fighter pilot.
una persona aviadora. Yo pensaba, yo quiero ser aviador, yo quiero.
Mon rêve, c'était de devenir pilote.
Joining me is 7 Billion Others creator, photographer, and filmmaker Jan Actus Bertrand, and project manager and curator Gili Kenyon. And Jan, you're well known for these epic-sized photography projects of the Earth from above. Where did you get the idea for 7 Billion Others?
Very shortly, one day I have an accident with an helicopter, and I have a small accident, and for 2 days I stay in a family in Africa. And these people are, you know, the subsistence farmer, people who are working every day, the ground, only for food. They don't selling anything. They don't know how to write. They don't know how and these people to read, and these people, they have nothing. And they learn me so many things, so the important thing in my life, what is happiness, what I want to change in my life. So for 2 days I was with this family very close, and they have learned so much things to me. So I decided to do a big project, and I send 10 teams around the planet doing interview and asking the same 40 questions to everybody around the planet. And this question is some question I think you need to ask every day. What is the meaning of life? I'm happy. What have to, you know, what have to change in my life to be more happy? And these people give you a little bit the answer. And I think it's a very important exhibition because not me, the people are brilliant. And also, this can change your life a little bit. So I think it's go to see it.
It can change your life, and I'm going to come back to that because that's too tantalizing. Galit, I understand that in some cultures it was more difficult than others to get answers to what might appear as simple questions. For instance, what is love or what is happiness? Why was it difficult?
Oh, it might be difficult, for example, in some languages, the word itself doesn't exist. We were speaking about Maasai tribes a few minutes ago, and in Maasai, for example, the word happiness doesn't exist. So the translator has to explain the concept itself before the person can answer. Or in other languages, the word love can be very different if you're speaking about love of a sibling, love of a lover, love of your friends or something like that. So it's always very interesting the way you can, and also in some culture people are very shy, and speaking about very personal, very intimate stories might be more difficult.
Now, you mentioned, Jan, the strong sense of humanity in 7 Billion Others, and from the pieces I've seen, it's very evident and quite moving. What is it about this exhibit that you think will really resonate with people here in San Diego?
I think the 17th exhibition we do around the planet is always very successful. And I think the people talking is you talking, it's not somebody else. It's very funny how you understand is you talking about. And sometimes it's very hard, you know. If I ask you the question, what is the worst thing happened in your life and what have you learned from it? Everybody can understand it's a very difficult question. If you answer this question and you know, because this interview is for 1 hour interview, it's not interview very quickly. It's like you go to psychologist, you open your heart and you don't know the people who are filming you. So you can say things you have never said before. So even for the people who are interview, is something is new and it's a very nice experience. People crying a lot, and often sometimes people say, okay, what I say I don't want to put on the air. Yes, because for example...
And you honored that.
Yeah, sure. If you go to Pakistan, for example, the women have very few rights and you are beaten or something like that, you don't want all the world says that. So it's an amazing... Okay, anyway, go to see the exhibition.
Go see the exhibit.
Yes, well, I cannot speak for them.
Let me tell folks where it is. It's opening on Saturday night at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park. Jan and Galit, merci beaucoup.
So what is happiness for you?
I can answer that. It's peace. It's peace.
Exactly. Voilà. Merci, madame.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is one of the most famous in American history, but it may never have happened without one man who today is largely unknown. Culture reporter Angela Carone shows us a production at the La Jolla Playhouse, bringing him out of the shadows.
If you don't know who Bayard Rustin was, you're not alone.
Bayard Rustin has been termed a lost prophet of the civil rights movement.
That's actor-playwright Michael Benjamin Washington. He's written a play called Blueprints to Freedom, an ode to Bayard Rustin. It's getting a world premiere at the La Jolla Playhouse, and Washington is playing Rustin.
Bayard's mind was 50 years at least ahead of its time, and, many thought he was going to be the Western world's Gandhi.
Passive resistance was Gandhi's approach.
Rustin was an outspoken black activist and a rising star in the movement. He was sent to Alabama to counsel another star and to teach him the tenets of nonviolent civil disobedience.
He passed it on to Martin Luther King Jr., who then took it on for the Montgomery bus boycott.
Passive resistance.
Rustin became a mentor to King, served as his executive aide, and ghostwrote many of his early essays. But for King, Rustin was not an ally who could share the spotlight.
They had a very contentious relationship in the sense that Bayard was openly gay. He was a former communist. So those two huge factors kept him marginalized for the duration of his career.
Bayard Rustin never hid his homosexuality, and he paid a price for it. In this scene from the play, Rustin and King meet after a 2-year rift. It's set in Rustin's office just a few months before the March on Washington.
When it was time for me to excuse myself from the movement because of the threat that I'd be exposed, I did so gracefully. Eventually, I fell back into the good graces, at least the tolerance of leadership. But when you dismissed me from the movement because of a lie, an intentional falsehood concocted by a rival Negro leader, a congressman, a minister who functioned under the direct command of the leaders of the House and the Senate, you never thought for a second to spare me, Martin.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating about that scene is that we get to see two men, one of whom we know very well, and the other one that we don't know that well. But we get to see both of them behind closed doors in the intimacy of this office.
Lucy Tabergen is directing Blueprints to Freedom.
It's interesting to tease out the places where they're more vulnerable than we would expect them to be, or the fears and the crisis that they're going through is something that would not have been necessarily a public thing.
When Adam threatened to expose you and me as homosexual lovers, I had one choice. Now, he did concoct a lie. I did turn against you. We have been derailed, but that was 2 years ago.
As we know, King eventually agreed to speak at the march, which was a great success.
As the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
It was Rustin who organized the whole event, and he did it before email, cell phones, or fax machines.
It's quite remarkable. I can't think of quite so unique a skill set as what he possessed.
Gabe Green is the play's dramaturg.
All of these thousands and thousands of individual documents that showed just how much detail went into the planning of them and the execution of the march.
When the day of the march arrived, Bayard Rustin was still relegated to the sidelines.
Which is why he's not on the program and his name doesn't exist on the literature. But there was a moment we can see that he got to hear his own voice echoing through the mall on Washington.
The first demand is that we have effective civil rights legislation, no compromise, no filibuster, and that it includes public accommodation, decent housing, integrated education, FAPC, and the right to vote. What do you say?
Rustin's story is especially relevant to 2015, with groups like Black Lives Matter on the rise.
President's office, it's urgent.
Washington hopes his play inspires audiences to activism.
Because I'd like not to see any more of our leaders' heads blown off in front of their wives and children. That's what Bayard Rustin wanted. Don't just shake your head and say, oh, that's good, or that's bad, or that's too bad. That's not my fight. What are you going to do?
1963!
Angela Carone, KPBS News.
Now let's recap some of tonight's top stories. President Obama signed an executive order this Labor Day requiring up to 7 days a year of paid sick leave for federal contract workers. He also called on Congress to do more to provide paid leave to all workers. For lots of people, Labor Day is Beach Day. This shot taken by a reporter with our media partner, 10 News. Lifeguards say some 300,000 people went to the beaches over the holiday weekend. A lot of them enjoyed some great surf, look at that, but the rip currents were also tough, and there were close to 400 water rescues through the weekend. There are hopes for another rescue off the coast of Tijuana for an 80-foot-long blue whale tangled up in fishing line. It was spotted this morning off the Coronado Islands. Rescuers have been trying to detangle the huge whale since it was first seen near Los Angeles on Friday, but they lost sight of it near Catalina. U.S. rescuers are coordinating with their Mexican counterparts to try to help the whale. Wildlife experts say the stress and strain of being tangled could kill the animal. And the U.S. Sand Sculpting Challenge wrapped up today on San Diego Bay. The annual contest drew competitors from all over the world. These are just temporary masterpieces. They're all getting bulldozed later this evening. Here's a look at what we're actually working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. An East County Creation Museum has been rejected again by the San Diego Museum Council. We'll have their response. And on Midday Edition, if you've ever thought about running for public office but didn't know where to start, we will tell you about a candidate academy being offered in Carlsbad. Join us for that on KPBS Radio at noon. A hot week ahead as we end the long holiday weekend and the kids go back to school tomorrow. 80s along the coast with a high surf advisory in effect until tomorrow night. 90s in the inland valleys over the next few days. Clouds in the mountains with a slight chance for some showers or thunderstorms. And triple digits continue in the desert and a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms there for Wednesday evening. Of course, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Good night.